Welcome to the Google Cloud Update, and a very happy new year to all our listeners. We are so excited to be back for our first episode of 2026, and we wish you all the best for the year ahead. We're kicking things off with a packed episode. We'll start with the latest in AI and machine learning, including a powerful new experimental model in Vertex AI and a key deprecation notice. Then we'll dive into the world of data and analytics with some fantastic new features for BigQuery and DataProc that give you much more control. After that, we'll cover major updates in compute, including a ton of news from Google Kubernetes Engine and a new networking feature for Cloud Functions. We also have critical security bulletins for GKE you won't want to miss, plus updates for Cloud Asset Inventory, VMware Engine, and Backup and Docked. It's a lot to cover, so let's get started. Kicking things off in the world of artificial intelligence. In Vertex AI, a new model, GLM 4.7, is now available as an experimental launch in Model Garden. This model is designed specifically for what Google calls core or vibe coding, tool use, and complex reasoning. It's available as a managed API, so if you're working on advanced coding assistants or complex agentic workflows, this is one to check out. On the other hand, as one model arrives, another prepares to depart. A quick heads up for users of third-party models. Anthropic's Claude 3.5 Haiku was deprecated on January 5th, 2026, and is scheduled for a full shutdown on July 5th, 2026. So if you're using Haiku, it's time to start planning your migration. And for those of you building these complex agentic applications, observability just got a major boost. In both CloudTrace and Stackdriver, you can now collect, view, and analyze multimodal prompts and responses from applications built with LangGraph or the Agent Development Kit frameworks. This is a huge deal for debugging and understanding how your agents are interpreting and responding to things like images and text together. This feature is currently in public preview. Now let's move over to our data and analytics segment. BigQuery has been busy. First, for all the Java developers out there, Google has released its own open source Java Database Connectivity, or JDBC driver for BigQuery. This is in preview and should make connecting your Java applications to BigQuery much more straightforward. Also in BigQuery, the Create External Table and Load Data statements have been enhanced with several new options that are now generally available. You can now specify a time zone when loading data, define custom formats for date, time, and timestamp values, and even define custom null markers for your CSV files. Perhaps most usefully, a new source column match option lets you specify whether to match columns by position or by name when loading data, which can save a lot of headaches with evolving schemas. Staying in the data space, DataProc has a few interesting updates. A new property, DataProc PyPy repository, allows you to customize the PyPy repository used for pip. You can point it to a custom URL or simply set it to Google to use a Google-hosted cache of PyPy, which is accessible without public internet connectivity. This is a great feature for secure environments. Be aware that starting in image version 3.1, this Google-hosted cache will be the default. You can opt out and return to the public PyPI by setting the value to Pipey. DataProc also fixed an issue with the Spark driver extra class path delimiter for the Jupyter Spark monitor listener and removed some deprecated Hadoop configuration properties. If you were affected by the issue from December where autopilot nodes could fail to start new pods due to NRI-run pod sandbox failures, a fix is now available in GKE version 1.34 and later. We highly recommend checking the release notes for the exact version and instructions if this issue sounds familiar. And as is common for the start of the year, there are a host of version updates across all GKE release channels. New versions are available for the rapid, regular, stable, and extended channels, with new default versions for cluster creation in each. This also means a large number of older versions have been removed and auto upgrade targets have been updated. We won't list all the versions here, but as always, check the GKE release notes to see which versions apply to your clusters and plan your upgrades accordingly. While still on the topic of compute, let's jump over to Cloud Functions. second-generation functions now support direct VPC egress, which is in preview. This allows your functions to communicate directly with resources inside your VPC without needing a serverless VPC access connector. This simplifies your network architecture and can reduce latency for services within the same network. Now for an important segment on security and networking. We have two high-severity security bulletins for GKE. These bulletins address vulnerabilities, specifically CVE 2025-40214 and CVE 2025-40215, that were discovered in the Linux kernel and could lead to privilege escalation on container-optimized OS nodes. GKE standard clusters are impacted, and autopilot clusters could be vulnerable if you use an unconfined seccomp profile or allow the CapNet admin capability. GKE sandbox clusters are not impacted. To mitigate this, you must upgrade your node pools to a patched version. Please refer to the official security bulletins for the full list of affected and patched versions. This is a critical update, so please take action. On the networking and asset management front, Cloud Asset Inventory has expanded its support. You can now discover, search, and monitor several new resource types from network connectivity and network security integration. This includes resources like internal range, intercept deployment group, and intercept endpoint, giving you greater visibility and governance over your network security posture. Rounding out our updates with storage and infrastructure. VMware Engine has introduced enhancements to simplify using external NFS data stores. This makes it easier to use File Store or Google Cloud NetApp volumes as external data stores for your ESXi hosts, allowing you to scale storage independently from your compute resources. This is a big win for flexibility and cost optimization. Backup and DR service also has a couple of nice updates. The Protection Summary feature is now generally available, helping you identify and fix data protection gaps across your projects. Additionally, you can now use cost reports to view resource-specific billing costs, giving you granular insights into your spending. Finally, a few quick hits from other services. Agent Assist now offers a best practices guide for summarization automatic evaluation. And for those using Capacity Planner, you can now use client libraries in preview to access the API programmatically using languages like C#, Go, Java, Python, and Ruby. And that's a wrap on our first Google Cloud update of 2026. From the experimental GLM 4.7 model in Vertex AI and critical GKE security patches, to the new BigQuery JDBC driver and direct VPC egress for cloud functions, there's a lot to dig into to start the year right. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next week for another dose of Google Cloud news.